Good morning, my dear students. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about what is surgical dressing and what are all the sutures we are using, what are the type of fibers we are used for surgical dressings. Okay, so these are the things we are going to discuss in this chapter. So first, we should know what are all the fibers we are used for this surgical dressings. Okay, fiber which is nothing but a material or substance which is made from the natural threads, natural or artificial threads. Okay, so what are all the natural fibers, artificial fibers, synthetic fibers, mineral fibers? We are going to know this class. Okay, so for example, for the natural fibers, as we all know, cotton, jute, old silk, these are the natural fibers. Okay, and the second one is artificial fibers, cellulose and viscose. These are the artificial fibers just derived from the artificial sources. Okay, and the third one is the synthetic fibers, nylon, terylene. These are the synthetic fibers. And the fourth one is the mineral fibers, just derived from glass and asbestos. When coming to the natural fiber, the first one is the cotton. So biological source of the cotton is, so we know, just derived from the cotton plant, and it consists of epidermal trichomes of Gossypium herbaceae, just the family of Malvaceae. Just nothing but our cotton plant, as we all know. Hope you all know about cotton. Okay, and the morphology, which is it has the soft filamentous hair, white color, odorless, tasteless. The chemical constituents, cellulose, the chemical constituent, which is the cotton is made up of polysaccharide of glucose. The identification, absorbent cotton, absorbent means can sink in water. Okay, non-absorbent cotton floats on water. That cotton couldn't absorb the water, so it can float on the water. What are the uses of cotton is as a surgical dressing, as filter media, as absorbent gas. So for these purpose, we are using cotton. Okay. So how to prepare the cotton suture? Uh, the hairs are removed from the capsule, boiled with sodium hydroxide for 15 hours, and then which is washed with water, then bleached with the chlorinated line water, which is it's our tap water, and then which is washed with again water, and then soaked with distilled water, and again washed with water, then finally packed and sterilized. Okay, and coming to the silk. So these are all the fibers which is used for surgical dressing. Surgical dressing and making sutures. For surgical dressing, obviously we use sutures. Okay, so that suture source is coming from these kind of fibers. Okay, so this is the silk. The biological source of silk is just prepared from the cocoons of Bombyx mori. We know that Pattupulu, okay. Lepidoptera. Morphology, soft, smooth thread, yellow color, solid in nature. Okay, the chemical constituents of silk is a protein, mainly fibroin protein, which is composed of fibroin, fibroin protein. Fibron hydrolyzes glycine plus alanine. When it is undergone hydrolysis, the products are glycine and alanine. The identification, it is soluble in concentrated HCl and quioxum. The uses of silk is and preparation of a ligature and sieves. Which is the uses of silk is sieves are used to filter the residues. Okay, the preparation, how to prepare the silk sutures. Larva of silk thread means larva of silk forms silk fibroin from the glands of mouth, and this fibroin get initiated with the glue and forms cocoon. Cocoons are collected, heat at 60 degree to 80 degrees Celsius by steam for few hours, treated with hot water to dissolve the glue. The single thread is prepared by twisting. Okay, after heating the cocoons, the glues were dissolved using the hot water, and then the single thread is prepared by twisting method. So this is the preparation of silk thread. Okay, and next one is wool. Wool is the biological source of wool is which is obtained from sheep from the family of bovidae. And the preparation of wool. Wool is removed from the body of sheep, clean and remove the dirt, and washed with the algae to remove the grease, and processed between rollers and bleached with sulfate, and then washed and dried in hot air. Okay, what are the characteristics of wools are wool has a smooth, elastic, and slippery in touch, hygroscopic in nature. Chemical constituents of wool is sulfur contained protein, that is keratin. Okay, basically hair, which is composed of all the hair resource are composed of keratin products. So what is the identification of wool is which is insoluble in concentrated HCl and coxam solution. So I can identify the wool, and the uses as a filter media in preparation of bandages and dressings. So the wool is used as a filter medium and for preparing bandages and dressing. In that elements we can use a wool. And sutures. So what is suture? See, when you're going to hospital for any injuries or any other major operations, the term by the physicians, they are using the term suture, suture, suture. Have you ever imagined what is that? Suture is just nothing but it is a thread which is used to stitch the edges of various tissues. Suture is a thread is used for stitching. Okay, with the help of the needle, example skin, muscles, etc. If same thread is used to seal off blood vessels, vein or artery, then it is known as ligature. So ligature is the same thread which is used to seal off blood vessels, vein or artery, which is known as ligature. Okay, classification. Sutures are classified into two main groups. One is absorbable suture and the second one is a non-absorbable suture. So what is an absorbable suture? They are absorbed or digested by the tissue in which they are implanted. So the absorbable suture means it can absorb by its own by the tissues which is present at the wound. So the first one is surgical catgut. Second one is chromosized surgical catgut. The third one is kangaroo tendons. The fifth one is synthetic absorbable sutures. So these are all the examples of absorbable sutures. And the second one is non-absorbable sutures. They are not absorbed or digested by the tissues. So, which is in contrast to the absorbable suture. So, these absorbable sutures cannot absorbed by the tissues. So, after healing of wound, they are removed after incision or incision. So, so some of them are experienced this kind of sutures. So, after having mm, after putting what is that stitches, doctor your physician advised to come back after 10 days or for 5 days. You just come back. We need to what is that we need to de-stitch the suture. So that is the non-absorbable suture, that means which is not absorbed by the tissues, so we need to detach from your tissues. Okay, but in case of absorbable suture, it can heal by its own, so it can absorb by the tissues. So we no need to come back, we no need to advise the person to come back and de-stitch the suture. Okay, so what is the examples of non-absorbable sutures? Silk sutures, cotton sutures, nylon sutures, linen sutures, polyester sutures, and metallic sutures. So these are all non-absorbable sutures. They should removed after incision. After having stitches, it should be removed. Okay, because it can't absorb by its own. So surgical dressing. What is surgical dressing? All materials are used alone. All materials used alone or in combination for covering and protect wound are known as surgical dressing. It is nothing but you are going to protect the wound by using the combination of materials. Okay, covering of combination of protective materials to protect the wound. Okay, the classification of surgical dressing: primary wound and dressing, absorbents, bandages, adhesive types, protective types. Okay, function of surgical dressings: to prevent and reduce the infections. So when you are getting infected or injured, we should prevent and reduce the infection, that is mandatory. The next one is to heal the wound. After prevention and protect from the infection, the next one is the wound should be healed. Okay, and the final one is to give support to the tissues. So once the wound should be healed, the final step is to give support to the tissues. Okay, so primary wound dressing: these dressings are placed over wound surface to absorb wound sections, pus or blood. Example: impregnate GAM 30. Absorbance used to absorb wounds secretions such as pus, blood, etc. Example: cotton, wool, gauze, pads, etc. The third one is bandages. It is used to hold dressing and provide support at the wound site. So, which gives support for the wound site. Example: plaster of Paris bandages. If you're having fractures, they are doing a plaster of Paris bandages, rubber elastic bandages. Example: crepe bandages, cotton gauzes, roller bandages, etc. And adhesive types. Rubber adhesive tapes provide strength and adhesion to the wound. Acrylate adhesive tapes is mainly used in operations or after operations to reduce the trauma. Okay, and protectives used to cover the wet dressings and retention of heat. Example, plastic sheets, wax coat, papers. So these are all the some examples of surgical dressings. Okay. So in this chapter, what are the things we learned? So what are the fibers used for sutures? How to make it? And what is suture? What are all the types of sutures we are using? And what is surgical dressing? What are all the classifications of surgical dressings? And what are the materials used to cover the surgical dressing? So these things we are discussed in this class. Okay, thank you for your attention. Thank you.